Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 254. My name is John Morgan in Houston, Texas, back in my home state of Texas. Not quite Dallas, where I'm from, but we'll let Houston work. And I got an all-star crew with me here. The young Mike Bohn has made his way down from Toronto, Canada. Say hello, Mike Bohn.
First time in Texas. I'm excited.
First time in Texas?
Yeah, never been here, never even done like a layover or through an airport or anything. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, I know,
You're
right?
getting exposed. Well, we're showing it up right because we're getting to show you Texas's finest. This is a local establishment that is I don't think they have many of these outside the Lone Star State.
Right.
A real Texas delicacy. This is Hooters. So welcome to Hooters. I'm sure it's the first time you've ever been to one of these. As you can see, beautiful decor, sports everywhere, lovely young Texas ladies running about. So hopefully this is the proper introduction to Texas for you, sir.
For sure, and as I'm sure we'll get into at some point, we just had a nice tour of the countryside for about an hour and a half this afternoon.
We're getting into that right off the bat. I will also welcome in the Mac Life's Oscar Willis, who of course is a Vegas homie, but coming from across the pond.
Come across from
all the way from Ireland.
Oh, shut up. But I'm enjoying this Texas decor that you pointed out.
Yes.
Yeah, how you pronounce that? Hooters.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough. I know. It's the spelling's a little tough. Yeah, you can see we got the orange, just like the University of Texas here.
Right.
You
Yes. Yeah, because the lady was saying that's why. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great
That's
stuff.
what it's about. All right, so that's where we're at. It is a classic MMA roadshow type setting. There are quite large beers being delivered to us. And by the way, we were trying to order pitchers. And the lady was super nice. She said, it's actually cheaper if you order the Big Daddies. We said, well, we are a couple of Big Daddies. Well,
and if she had better clients, she'd have got a good tip for that.
but not going to happen with us. We're cheap, too. No, just kidding. We will. All right, yeah, you touched on it, Mike Bohn. Quite the adventure we've had. I want to just start right there. Before we get to the road trip, can we just start with the host hotel? Now, Oscar has made the smarter decision, got an Airbnb down the street, and it turned out to be the wise call. I'm not going to complain too much about first world problems, all right? I mean, listen, somebody else is paying the bill for us, so we can't complain too much. But I always get excited when I can stay at the UFC host hotel, right? Because the host hotel, a lot of time, it's like, these super fancy hotels, $300, $400 a night. Like, shout out to USA Today for funding the trips, but they don't roll with that kind of budget, right? They don't let us spend that. But I checked out here, and it was the Crown Plaza, and it wasn't that bad. So I said, look, we can do the host hotel, which is awesome because, like, morning weigh-ins tomorrow. You don't have to drive anywhere. You just go straight down. Media day this morning. Same thing. You just take a shower, go straight down. You set up. You don't have to get no. It's great, right? This is literally somebody done messed up at the UFC. I'm not trying to put the blame on anybody in particular, but this hotel is not quite up to the standards that the UFC usually uses. And a lot of it's under construction, so that's a big part of it, of course. You know what I mean? That's a huge
one
part of
elevator,
it.
that's for sure.
Is it construction or demolition?
Demolition demolition might be the better word. Get VIP guests rolling in as we get started here. What's going on, man? Good to see you, brothers. Oh, we got half off of it.
Okay.
We have had so many adventures already. Some VIP guests are dropping in some VIP half off at Bucks Wild, which, by the way, that was a fantastic introduction to Texas for the young Mike Bohn. If you're ever in Texas,
just Mike Bohn, right, John?
Oh yeah. No, I quite enjoyed myself at Bucks Wild as well. Shout out to our man Kevin who took care of us over there. He gave us the VIP
Is this word
style.
at the top there, all New Day or whatever? That must be a Texan word
Yeah,
as well.
you know what? New Day is it probably doesn't translate to British English quite all the way. But yeah, we had a good time there. All right, so the host hotel, elevators. One of the elevators doesn't work at all. Another of the elevators, the floor thing doesn't work. So you don't really know what floor you're at. You have to check on the door jamb to make sure you're not getting off at the wrong place. That's kind of annoying. I was in my room the other day. I noticed that my smoke detector has a little plastic bag wrapped around it. So I guess the last person there was smoking and didn't want to set it off. It's been an adventure.
I hit a light switch outside your room. It fell out of the wall.
It fell out of the wall. Literally, you're like, there's a little loose wire here. Touched it, and the whole thing fell out.
We came out of the media day. There was about 25 firemen in the lobby.
Just suited up, pickaxes in hand,
ready to go,
running through there.
They just assumed the building was on fire. They didn't even know. They just drove past and thought, well, look at it.
The way this thing looks, there must be some kind of damage going on. So, yes, it's been tough. Yes, man, we will take another round of frosty beverages if you don't mind, please. All three of us. Is that okay? Can we take? Yes. It's okay.
Yeah, it's in the middle.
Yeah,
it's a very casual podcast. Kaylee, you want to say hello? No? All right, well. Thank you. Yes, we'll all do another round of beers if you don't mind. Yes, she's very stunningly gorgeous. Very beautiful, the Kaylee.
Miss Texas, I think.
Miss
wasn't
Texas, probably so. I believe so. If not, she should be.
she? Yeah. You should see my tattoos, but they're not on my ass. It's the other way around.
All right.
Everybody want another round.
We do.
Yes, ma'am.
Not yet. All right. There you go.
That
As we
hospitality.
resume the podcast.
Hospitality is amazing. And we resume. So, yes, the host hotel has not been fantastic. But, again, first world problems, can't complain too much. But we had more adventure today. So it's been kind of a fun day and a lot to talk about, to be honest with you. But it ended with a guest fighter media session, basically, out at Renzo Gracie's Lake Houston, which is cool. It's actually where UFC matchmaker Mick Maynard trains. He was awarded his black belt not that long ago under the Renzo Gracie banner. So they were kind enough to host a media day, and some good names. Alexander Hernandez, who is fun, and we'll talk about that briefly in a moment. Jeff Neal, Uriah Hall. That's fun, but no question about it. The biggest name there, Jorge Masvidal. That's the one that everybody wanted to speak to. Now, here's the funny part. We're walking out of the hotel to go to do this media session, which we know is about a 45-minute drive away, and Masvidal walks into the hotel. So he's like, hey, guys, what are you up to? We're like, well, we're driving across town to go talk to you as you stand here right in front of us right now. So that was a little bit of an adventure.
Yeah.
But then we get into the vehicle, and a 45-minute drive turns into an hour and a half. With the gentleman, and a nice gentleman, a very nice gentleman, driving the bus, just continuing to make poor turns and poor direction decisions. And we're trying to, Dave Lockett from UFC PR, recently of splitting up Masvidal and Usman fame on Super Bowl press row, he's making nice suggestions to the guy that, hey, I think this is the wrong way. Maybe you should reevaluate the direction you're going. And the guy says, nope, this is the way. I got it. I know how I'm going. And finally, we just had to say, like, dude, this is not the right way. I need you to turn around. I need you to change things right now.
Yeah.
And he does. And, an hour and a half journey to the gym gave us about 3 or 4 minutes to get set up, basically.
Yeah, that was nice. That was fun. Crowded room already. That was good. Always fun.
It's been an adventure.
You also, the bus was hotter than the sun. So that was fun, too.
Sweating on the way. Listen, I hate to start out complaining. Here we are in this legendary Lone Star establishment.
Yeah.
That you really. I mean, Mike Bohn getting his first look at a Hooters, and we're sitting here complaining. It's just
Kaylee serving us drinks for cheaper than they need to be.
Exactly. So we really should stop
New
complaining.
Day coupons. I mean, what's not to love? Come on.
Oh, New Day, half off.
Yeah.
Might need to take advantage of that. All right, we'll find out. All right, listen. So let's talk about. We'll leave Masvidal because I want everybody to get a chance to hear that. But out of the other 3 guys that were there, give me your impression, because Alexander Hernandez remains batshit crazy, and I love him for it. I know that he took a lot of heat for after his loss to Donald Cerrone, the way he treated Cowboy. Boy, he didn't back off of that today. Maybe you guys want to touch on that. Jeff Neal, who a lot of people I think believe it has championship potential, at least contendership potential. He called out Michael Chiesa, said he thinks that would be a good fight for him. And, hey, man, kind of made some interesting points. Said, I think Chiesa's been jumping the line a little bit. I didn't think he had to go through. And listen, I'm not taking away from the wins that Chiesa has, but that is a potential, I guess, criticism, right, is that he's fighting kind of
That's a fair point.
guys that have passed their prime, so to speak, or what have you. And then, of course, Uriah Hall was there as well, and Uriah Hall was in great spirits, man. He's funny, man. I mean, for a guy that used to absolutely hate talking to the media, I think now he still hates it, but at least tries to enjoy
Well,
the
he
few minutes of
acknowledges it when he starts, which is funny.
Yeah, he's like, I really don't want to be here, but I am. Don't ask any stupid questions, and I promise I'll give you a good answer.
It's a far, far cry from the experience I had with him in Belfast a few years ago, where he was definitely one of the hardest and, let's just say, least kind interview subjects I've ever had. So you could easily search that interview up on YouTube if you want to see it. It's something to behold, and he is just such a long way from that at this point. It's pretty amazing.
What else stood out to you guys? I mean, out of those guys that you talked to, what stood out to you?
Well, obviously, I think I'm going to be the one to steal this because it's the best thing to talk about. Alex Hernandez was asked, what did you think of Donald Cerrone? I think Alex Hernandez will be linked to Donald Cerrone for quite some time. The attempts at building that fight up and then subsequent sort of humbling that he had at Cerrone will have those two linked for a while. And he was asked, what do you think of Cerrone's performance against Conor McGregor? And he said, it just made me flaccid. You know, I'm waking up every morning with a big
Classic.
hard erection, looking for that fight, looking for vengeance. I see that, just the erection just goes away. I mean, he hasn't seen our waitress here. Maybe he hasn't visited Hooters. I don't know. But he was very, very upset about that, and he really was quite mild-mannered until that moment. But when Cerrone's name came up, he really lit up and was like, you don't understand, I was waking up with a fire in my belly to get that fight. And what I really found most interesting, especially in context of Stephen A. Smith's comments about Cerrone giving up and some people not liking that, he said, I can't believe that Cerrone gave me the fight he gave me, and then he gave that to Conor.
He said, and to be fair, he did say, I can't believe he gave up, but he quickly checked himself, like maybe he didn't even mean to say give up, and he corrected himself with that. But that is fair, right? I mean, like, to say, like, man, that guy showed up that night, and he didn't necessarily show up, or he didn't have that.
It's almost like Conor McGregor might be a better fighter than Alexander Hernandez. I mean, that's a crazy theory to throw out.
Listen, guys, as someone who works for an objective outlet, I couldn't possibly comment on that.
Too good. So that definitely stood out. I mean, listen, I like Alexander Hernandez. I understand why people don't like him, the brashness, that sort of thing. But to me, it's fun, man. Like that, the ability to say weird stuff like that and have fun with it. He's basically talking about.
Listen, you get the word flaccid in my headline. I'm a fan.
And dude, he's got real potential. Like, and he's got that personality. He's clearly willing to say almost anything. So if he can actually, like, if he had won that Cerrone fight after all that. If he can put a streak together, he has good UFC wins. I mean, Beneil Dariush, Francisco Trinaldo are no joke. I think he has another one in there somewhere against someone. But, yeah, man, like, I think he's got potential to be, like, a name that people really, follow, care about in the lightweight division. He just needs, the experience, the wins, et cetera, et cetera.
A lot of people thought he lost the Trinaldo fight, but he did say, listen, man, I came in with basically one shoulder, man. he said he was – I mean, the whole thing's on YouTube, but if you want to say, like, he's warming up in the locker room and not throwing punches with his right shoulder, and then he can't grip when he's drilling.
I mean, Trinaldo's one of those guys that even if you beat, you usually don't look good in the process. So.
Also, if we're talking about future stars, what do we love? We love call-outs. Fucking guy listed about 10 names today. He's like, well, this guy.
Yep.
Settled on Al Iaquinta eventually. But look.
Yeah, mentioned Islam Makhachev. He's not a name who comes out of the mouth of many people. So
cool,
credit to him.
You got to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Someone who's not afraid. Like, he put his balls on the table and got stung for it. And he's back here right again, being like, well, listen, I'm going to do it again. So you can't fault that.
I like it. Don't get mad at him. What do you guys think about the idea of Chiesa and Jeff Neal?
I don't mind it. I mean, I think that's probably...
Chiesa's going to want a bigger name, right? Is the only problem.
Of course.
I think Jeff Neal had a great point.
I do too. I like the fight. I mean, for me as a fight fan, I think it makes a lot of sense. But I see that Chiesa is going to say, like, hey, look, I mean, no disrespect. I mean, Chiesa's a fight fan, right? Like, he studies the game. He knows who Jeff Neal is, and I'm sure he's very appreciative of Jeff Neal's skills. But I understand why Chiesa is going to say, listen, man, look at the guys I've beat. No disrespect, but you don't fit in with that name quality.
Yeah, and I mean, for my matchmaker thing, in terms of like a thing that maybe made sense for a Chiesa, I actually pitched, Chiesa fighting the winner of Damian Maia and Gilbert Burns, and I feel like if Gilbert Burns wins that fight, which I feel like a lot of people are expecting him to, like, he's basically in the same position as Chiesa, comes in, gets a good win, beats a former champion, and then, really moves up the rankings in that sense, or not former champion, but like a big name, a guy who's fought for belts, etc.
Fought for belts.
So, like, he would kind of be in the spot where Chiesa gets elevated. So, like, if that's where your kids are like, oh, do I want Jeff Neal or Gilbert Burns, something like that, I think he's going to have to fight someone in that realm. I don't think he's getting Colby Covington. I don't think he's getting anyone in that top 3, top 4. So he's going to have to fight, somewhere back, and I think Jeff Neal maybe makes as much sense as anyone. Okay,
if you're really talking about name value or name recognition or quality, though, let's say for whatever reason Gilbert Burns does win. Because if Damian Maia wins, of course you want Maia. I mean, he's not going to be around much longer. Stylistically, if you're Michael Chiesa, that's going to be fun, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it's a real name. Now, if you're sitting back in your Michael Chiesa and your options are Neal or Burns, stylistically, again, I'd probably say you want Burns. I would say you probably don't want to go. I don't know. Maybe if I'm Chiesa, I think I'd rather have Burns.
It's tough because we don't know too much about Neal's ground game, so
True.
It's a little more challenging.
But I mean, name recognition. Does Burns have more name recognition? I mean, definitely not to the general fan.
Right
right
after that fight, yeah, we'll see.
I think Maia's got one of those established names that you can't really argue with the longevity of him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think either way, Chiesa's in a position where he's going to have to make a choice, and I think that's a good call from Jeff Neal. And he seems very aware. I think he makes it, realistic in that sense. Like, that's a guy who I could actually fight. Someone's like, oh, why don't you call out Colby Covington? And he's like, because he ain't going to fight me. Like, that makes no sense. He understands the game and, where things lie, and I'm sure that was a very strategic call out. His coach, Saif Saud, a smart guy who kind of knows the the game as well. So yeah, I thought it was the right call.
I think the best call-outs are the ones where you hear it, you hadn't necessarily thought about it before, and then you hear it and you go, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's
makes sense.
Let's do that right now. Like that's exactly what happened when he said Michael.
I agree. All right, well listen, those guys were all great, but the biggest star of the day was certainly Jorge Masvidal. He came in. He had a very limited time with us. So you'll hear at the very beginning, we were told we had no more than 5 minutes. I'm not even sure we got a full 5, but I will say this.
It was like 5:05 or something.
Was it 5:05?
Yeah,
so we got 5. I will say this. I think Masvidal packed it in there, man, as he's been known to do. He made use of his time on the mic. Here's what Gamebred had to say.
5 minutes, guys.
Boy, the tour continues, man. You're all over the world, all over the place. What's the plan right now? Getting as much camera time as possible.
This just happens to be there where I go. They take out phones and shit and want to record me like it's something special. But now I'm just here as a fan. Watch John Jones fight. Also come out here to my boy McManier's gym, show him some love and stuff. But yeah, the cameras just follow me nowadays.
I guess it's not official yet, but it's official, right? I mean, the fight with Usman is happening. Dana's saying International Fight Week.
Where's my? I don't know. They haven't told me if I can answer or not, but I don't know if I'm supposed to answer on that.
Hypothetically speaking, if you were to meet Kamaru Usman on International Fight Week this week,
I'd break his face.
How would you feel if it was booked?
Oh, I'd fuck his ass up. I'd feel good about it because that's a good fight for my camp and me. We'd like that one very much.
Would there be hypothetically money to get to? I mean, was it a new contract?
There's hypothetically a lot of money to get to. I broke a lot of records when I fought in the last time, so, you know, I'm a prize fighter. I want to get paid for what I do.
The title, as far as the meaning of the belt itself, I mean, for a long time, like you said, you're a prize fighter, you're about the money, but does the belt signify something to you? Would it be an accomplishment?
Definitely signify something. But more than that, beating Usman in a really bad way will be better for me in a way, you know. He has a couple victories against a couple of my teammates, so I definitely got to represent for ATT there and take his head off.
What about the idea that he's like a stylistic nightmare for you? I mean, he says that, you know.
That's what he said, and that's what a lot of the media thing has said as well. And I would love nothing more than just get in there and show the vast skill set between me and him, you know.
Oh, do you consider Kamaru a real one? Because I know you size up everybody.
Nah, definitely not. He's got like 38 personalities. Every week I keep finding a new one. I don't like any of them so far. And I've known this guy for a while. He wasn't that guy before. He was actually asking for pictures and handshakes back in the day. Now, and his real name is Kamaru Dean. It's not even Kamaru. He actually shortened up even his real birth name. This guy's just a head case of head cases, you know?
That Super Bowl thing, legit.
Well,
I got people at the NFL that would hit me up talking about, your UFC guys got real, and like it just straight to my phone. It looked real to me.
It was real in the sense that I told him what I'm gonna do. Nothing was gonna happen there. He had a cast on. I'm not gonna touch somebody who's already incapacitated and shit, you know. But he's a punk and I just want to tell him in your face, I'm going to fuck you up. I don't know what he got so upset about. I was just telling him the truth that I'm going to fuck you up and we'll finally fight. And he always says something that he likes people to keep the same energy and tell it to his face. That's exactly what I did. I don't know why he's mad. All I said was, hey. And I said it at a safe distance so he knew I wouldn't attack him. With all due respect, I'm going to fuck you up, Kamaru.
Do you think he got you mixed up with Kobe? Because he got off that Kobe and he kind of got the better verbally?
I hope he gets me mixed up with Kobe. I pray that he does. I pray that he confuses me with Kobe on any situation.
Seems he really wanted you to do something that day, though.
Well, what am I going to do? The guy has a cast on. There's people behind us, and he keeps going back as he's saying this, you know? All I told him is one thing, is I was delivering my message. Don't cross that line. And you saw he didn't cross that line now once. If not, because if he crosses the line, then yes. I have to slam dunk him into next week, you know? But he didn't cross the line, thank God.
A lot of people say his style's a wrestling style, but against Colby, he showed his stand-up. Were you at all impressed by that at all? Okay.
That was a serious-ass question?
Not anymore.
Because you're a good journalist, man. We won't let you run that one back. You scratch that. Hit me with another one.
Were you surprised that Colby Covington had his jaw broken like Kamaru Usman?
I've known Kobe for a while. He's a glass tank. He's the type of guy in training would get hurt a lot, broken his hands a lot. He's had problems before in sparring. So it doesn't surprise me that they broke his jaw. Surprising me that neither of them wrestled, you know, and that spoke to me a lot. they're not willing to have commitment like that and pull through on what got them there. You know, they wouldn't even switch it up. They decided they were both pretty even on the feet and wouldn't take it to their own thing because they had too much pride, too much ego. Maybe I get stuffed, maybe I get tired, I don't know, but that showed a lot of weakness to me, you know?
If you win the welterweight title, are you one of the top 3 or 2 biggest stars in this company?
Say one more time.
If you win the welterweight title, when you win the welterweight title, are you one of the top 3 biggest stars in this company?
For sure, one of the top 3 biggest stars, and whoever's bigger than me, I'll go after that name and take him out, you know, and continue to collect checks and belts.
You think you'll fight Colby?
Back in ATT right now. Colby hasn't come back to the gym yet since the last fight. What do you think will happen when he comes back to the gym?
Nothing. He'll be with Secret Service, and they'll be walking him around, and he'll shout shit when he's at a safe distance, and fucking, if I'm bored, I'll shout shit back, you know, knowing that nothing can happen because he's with security. It's Secret Service. He's got like 4 or 5 guys walking into the bathroom and shit, you know? So whatever. He doesn't even eat at the places that he used to frequent a lot. He stopped going to all these places because he heard rumors that I was going there. This guy's a coward, man. We're not worried about him.
Will you fight him at some point, you think?
Who?
Colby?
The guy that got his jaw broken by the guy I'm about to baptize? Probably not, because he'd make a lot of money. And I don't think he wins any more fights from here, to tell you the truth, man. And I don't want to make this about him because he just got famous. Next question.
Thanks, guys. You gotta steal him.
All right, there he was, Jorge Masvidal, always willing to speak his mind. Certainly, he had some points there. Guys, some of your biggest takeaway from this, because I mean, not necessarily completely fresh or unheard of content, but it's the first time we've really, I guess, had a chance to speak with him since Dana White made it clear that yes, this is definitely the fight that's happening. So we take the Conor McGregor option off the table, we take the other thought processes that may have been there, we say this is going to be the fight. So we of course, again, he's speaking hypothetically, of course, he's speaking about it as it's probably going to happen. And had some things to say about Colby as well and kind of where they stand. So I don't know, anything that really particularly stood out to you guys or from today's session?
I don't necessarily think things stood out as such. I think at this point, Masvidal's done so much media that it's like you go a week and you hear his latest comment. So I don't think we necessarily heard anything brand new. He stood by his actions at the Miami altercation with Kamaru Usman. Said simply, he always wants people to keep the same energy, so I just did. Other than that, the one thing I think that's really the big takeaway is he had a new deal for this fight. He said, I just got a lot of money for that.
Yep.
It's the story of Masvidal right now is like this guy who's veteran. I mean, who's got faster pay rises in any job ever than this guy right now,
Crushing it, man. Crushing it. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, more or less the same. I think he, at this point, you didn't hear Conor McGregor's name come out of his mouth a single time, or he has asked about Colby Covington a few times and all that stuff, but that fight's not obviously realistic right now. They're doing the title fight, it seems like, between him and Usman. So, yeah, I think these are just little sound bites that we're going to start working towards the fight with, and I think, like Oscar referenced to a little bit, talking about the altercation, everyone was being like, was that set up? Was that something they kind of coerced to do to start building anticipation? But he had a great line. He's like, Kamaru Usman always says, keep that same energy, that you're talking in interviews and Twitter and stuff. And he said, that's what I did. I'm not going to start a fight with the guy who's got a cast on his arm, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell him I'm going to F you up, I'm going to hurt you, I'm going to do all these things that I've said in every other interview. I'm going to break your face, I'm going to do all these things. And he sat face to face, and that's what you want, right? I mean,
I'm keyed up for it, especially now that we know. I mean, there's no other option, so let's get excited about it. But it is a tough stylistic matchup for him, man, because Usman is not going to fight that fight that he fought against Colby Covington, man.
It's just tough to say. Like, when was the last time Jorge Masvidal fought a guy whose a game plan was, I guess, Ben Askren, of course, but
Jorge didn't really get to play that out much.
Yeah, we didn't actually get to see, if he goes out there and smokes Kamaru Usman in 5 seconds or something, amazing. But I think we're going to see this fight play out over a round, 2 rounds, something like that. We're going to find out some things about Jorge Masvidal. I mean, it'd be interesting if he just went out there and got completely grinded out for 5 rounds or something, and that's why I honestly, when we spoke about this however long ago, I thought the Conor McGregor play was the thing to do, because he has all this momentum in the world right now, and if he just gets dominated and quote unquote exposed in a certain lacking area, it's going to take a lot away from his game. And you talk about a Colby Covington fight after that, you're like, oh, well, he just got owned by a guy with a similar style, stuff like that. So that's why I thought the Conor fight made sense. But if you can go in there and beat Usman, oh my God, we think Jorge Masvidal is a star right now. Attach a damn real UFC belt, not a BMF belt, and he can walk around with one each over each shoulder. You know, he would be. He's going to be
kind of cool, right?
He's going to be a big deal.
I think
so. I think for him, the risk reward is there. You know, it's very, very much worth taking this fight, and if he can go out there and execute, Jorge Masvidal is going to go to the next level.
It's nuts, man. The guy is next level superstar right now.
I mean, also if you think about like, if you're Jorge Masvidal, how do you not just have every bit of confidence in the world? I mean, you just had probably one of the best years like I've seen in recent memory, and okay, people talk, so you don't know, but he's always said, "Oh, Colby didn't win a round against me in the gym." If that's the case, then why wouldn't you feel confident against Kamaru? I think the last guy with a big grappling-centric style to fight Jorge was probably Damian Maia.
Yeah, you know, besides Askren, but we didn't really get to that fight.
It's funny that you say the Askren thing because it does you just sort of almost gloss it.
And you know,
I think I saw that.
The Maia thing was another one of those ones that, you know, I think it was a split decision. It was one of those ones where it was the current iteration of Jorge Masvidal.
The resurrection, sir.
The resurrection.
Hashtag
yes,
the resurrection.
My apologies. So I thought it'll be interesting, but obviously I think Maia and Usman's just grappling games are so different. If they can actually initiate it, Usman's a far less of a submission threat. He's not going to stay on his back for 3 minutes of each round and just kind of win the decision that way. So, yeah, it's a really, really interesting fight to me. I can't wait for Usman and Masvidal.
I definitely think if Masvidal did win, and I asked him about it at a scrum, he's possibly the second biggest star in the UFC. There's obviously Conor's on a different level. He's on his own little sphere right now. Then you did Khabib, Nate would be number 2 possibly. Yeah, Jorge's there, I think, already. And if he beats Kamaru, someone who everyone thinks he's stylistically inclined to lose to, and then if you're the UFC, let's say Conor's waiting for Khabib or something, and because until September Khabib wins that fight, suddenly you got Jorge Masvidal with a 170-pound title. Conor, you obviously wants that title. That's a mega fight. I mean, insane. There's options out there, and we love options.
We love options. All right, well, let's talk about the reason we're here at UFC 247. John Jones versus Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, that's happening.
That's the reason we're in Houston, not the reason we're at Hooters. We're doing something totally different there. Let's take a look at this main event, of course. I mean, this is an interesting card, right, because you got 2 title fights at the top of the bill, with the other, of course, being Caitlin Chukagian versus Valentina Shevchenko. And, of course, the 2 dominant champions, I think both believe they'll probably retain their belts. But I am intrigued by Dominic Reyes. And I'm intrigued by Dominic Reyes because I personally believe that what it takes to beat John Jones is power. I believe you have to touch John Jones. I don't see anybody. Now, I'm not saying like there's not iterations of this Khabib, but I don't see somebody that can out-wrestle John Jones right now. I don't see anybody that can take him to the ground and either hold him down for 25 minutes or submit him on the ground. You know, I don't see anybody that can really out-kick by now. You know, maybe we start talking, super fights and Adesanya and all this. But as far as in the division, I don't see anybody that's, capable of kind of just moving around for 25 minutes, outworking him on the feet, outpointing him, that sort of thing. So to me, I think you got to catch him and clip him and hurt him. And I think Dominic Reyes has that ability. Now, I still feel it's very, very green. It's very, very early in Dominic Reyes' career. But, maybe there's something to be said for coming in, young, dumb, and full of whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, not really knowing what you don't know.
Ignorance is bliss in a way.
Ignorance is bliss in a way. Just, hey, man, I'm full of confidence. And I will say
confidence
this.
Full of confidence. Sorry, yeah.
Exactly. Full of confidence. And I do like the fact that Dominic, wasn't afraid to kind of poke the bear a little bit and have a little fun. The on-sale press conference, I thought all of us thought was going to be just a rather boring day with nothing said, and all of a sudden you get a little heat between the two, and you're like, oh, we got something here. Now, here's the only bad side of that. I think when you start poking John Jones a little too much and you get the man fired up and angry at you, it turns out that, in heated rivalry matches, he tends to do pretty damn well.
Yeah.
And it does seem to me like, if maybe you thought you were going to slip in on John Jones a la Alexander Gustafsson the first time around, if maybe you thought you were going to slip in, I don't think there's any slipping in on John Jones because John Jones seems pissed off. So let me first start with you guys' take on Dominic Reyes. Like, what you take from getting around. I mean, what you thought of his chances coming in, but maybe like what you've gleaned from this week, how you feel things are progressing. And I understand, look, gun to the head, everybody's picking John Jones. I get that. But how much of a chance do you give Dominic Reyes?
Well, I'm going to be a bit of a negative Nancy here and say that overseeing him over the past week and a half, my estimation of his chances has gone down.
Yeah.
I do feel that this heavy media attention and schedule, and more specifically, it's like the guy can't say anything without getting ridiculed for it. A lot of that in part due to John Jones' reaction, which gets the fans on his side. But I feel like Dominic just seemed tired to me. He seemed like, oh, gee, I just think it's a big spotlight you step into. It's not like he was a big star that got this like a Cormier. He got this fairly young, as you said. It's his first time up at this sort of level. And I just get the sense that he's a bit sort of weary. And if we're looking at this as he's young and dumb and sort of this, he's almost like a puppy. He doesn't know what he's really going to do, but that could help him. You can't come in with that energy. You need to come in aggressive and like, fuck it, let's have a go. And I just think he started to realize like, oh, I'm fighting John Jones in a few days. Do you know what I mean? And it's tough, man. I think we look at John Jones and the puzzle to beat him as at this point he's such a veteran. It's like, oh, what tiny iteration of the game hasn't he seen yet?
Right.
And I think Dominic has been very specific in saying, I'm not going to let him lull me into a full sense of security and let me go into his rhythm. But you have to say, looking at them today, the energy they brought, Dominic Reyes had very much the energy of someone who's going to full into the rhythm of John Jones and let him sort of dictate the pace.
I guess we get to see it again, at the ceremonial weigh-in, so we'll get to see that on Friday night. But you're right, today, the media day face-offs, a little more tame than I think I would have liked to see. I don't know. It's weird. I want to see that fire, man. I want to see, like, some. I feel like
can't respect him. You can't.
That's
you don't have to disrespect him, but you can't respect him. I guess is the difference.
I know that sounds a weird thing to say, but I agree with you.
Yeah. You don't have to talk shit to him, but you can't just be like. Anthony Smith was almost the best way until he was in the cage.
Right.
He almost played it right until he got in there, and then.
But the thing is, like, John Jones will literally find anything, and that's why I think it's a mistake to give him anything by, like, talking trash. You're just, I think, doing yourself a disservice, ultimately, because, like, we're talking about one of the best fighters of all time, maybe the best fighter in the world right now. He's already got the skills, he's got the fight IQ, he's got anything. The last thing you need to do is give him reasons to get out of bed every day and, like, train even harder and, put something like that together. So, yeah, I agree. The Anthony Smith approach was probably the best. But John Jones even took offense to that. He's like, oh, this guy's such a good talker. He thinks he's like, this, that, and the other thing. He's analyst. He's all this. And, like, he took offense to that. Like, oh, my God, he's intelligent. Like, this is bad for, But that's what you need to do. If you're going to be that good and you're going to stay on top of the game for this long, you need to find any little reason there. And I think, Dominic Reyes has given him plenty. He said so much stuff about John Jones in the lead up to this fight. Some of it ridiculous, some of it true, some of it in the middle. But, yeah, I don't think it's really, really hard for me to pick him in this fight. I think the only really reason or the only avenue I see Dominic Reyes to get in this fight. I agree kind of what you said about maybe having the power and stuff is the best avenue, but we haven't seen John Jones hurt. We've barely seen him rocked. I guess the first Gustafsson fight a little bit, but we know that he barely trained for that fight and still showed up and won like the fight of the year.
Yeah, so the further away that gets, the more it looks like it was the anomaly.
Absolutely,
for sure. So, but you never know, man. This is John Jones' 15th consecutive title fight. The majority of those have gone the distance. There is all the tape in the world on this guy right now. I was going to ask him this question this week, but didn't necessarily have the chance. Kind of like, he came in so early in the UFC. He was this guy that would watch a video on YouTube and then try something the next fight in the octagon without like ever having trained it really, or like maybe throwing it 20 times in his garage when he was training there. But now I think he's just mastered what he's so good at, and I think it's taken away a little bit of the excitement from his fights, but I think that's what you need to do if you're going to stay on top. But it's a lot of fights, man, a lot of cage time, and eventually Kid Warrior, catch up. I think we saw it a little bit in the last fight with Thiago Santos, just complacency and maybe not taking as many risks, and then next thing you know, you lose 3 rounds to some guy and you haven't even really realized it, and then your title's gone. It almost happened to Thiago Santos.
It's so funny
in
the way that we were saying, like, we write off the Masvidal Askren fight as a test of grappling. Like, in some ways, and I know this sounds weird because I'm saying power is the way to beat him, I almost throw that fight out. I know it was a lot closer. It was a close fight, but like Thiago was so clearly hampered. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he's dangerous and he has power and he has the ability to put you out, but like he could barely walk forward without stumbling.
Yeah, he
so
was
like
a freak of nature.
Yeah, I was just like, man, he's not going to be able to land because he'd take, throw 2 punches and then damn near fall down. And so, like, in some ways, and John talked about, hey, man, look, if I was able to evade Thiago Santos, I'm like, that dude could barely stand up, man. Like, that dude could barely. So, I'm picking John Jones. I mean,
he's not the athlete Dominic Reyes is. I mean,
how many touchdowns has he scored in his life?
Oh, so much. Am I wrong? Did John Jones? I mean, maybe it's because he didn't want to make it about anything else than other themselves. But did he ever just say, like, do you understand the kind of stock I come from? Like, my brothers are both like NFL. Like, one of them's a future Hall of Famer. The other, I think, was pretty good too.
And in fairness, I don't think he ever said John Jones wasn't an athlete. I think he just said he's never fought an athlete, which still makes no sense. Daniel Cormier was an Olympic level wrestler. He obviously didn't get to compete as
in
much as he would want to.
Fuck those kids up.
Yeah, dude. Look at all these guys. Like, I don't know what the definition technically of an athlete is, but I assume if you compete in a professional sport on this level,
right now,
I assume that qualifies you as an athlete. If you get paid to play a sport, you're an athlete in my mind.
If you're considered the greatest of all time in pretty much anything,
there's obviously different levels of athlete. You can look at any sport. There's the guys that obviously aren't as agile or as flexible or as good to do it as fast as doing this. There's different magnitudes of it, but you obviously need to have some athletic prowess to be able to compete in a sport, to be able to kick someone in the head, like have that dexterity, all that stuff. So I think we're attaching ourselves a lot, and John Jones attached himself to a lot to this comment, but it was a stupid comment. I'm sorry, Dominic Reyes.
I always thought the definition of athlete is like explosive, just raw, sort of just physical attributes is what I've always taken an athlete to mean. So you think of people like Tyron Woodley, even though he hates the term, was always explosive, or someone like a Brock Lesnar was just someone you could put them in
freak athlete.
Yeah, you can put them in this sport, they're going to be too fast for their size. You can put them in this, they're going to be stronger than they look. Alex Hernandez looks like a fucking freak athlete, but stuff like that. And you got to say, if we're talking about those sort of athletes, I would say Thiago Santos would be above Dominic Reyes in that conversation. You know what I mean? I'd say Rampage Jackson would probably be on his days when he was motivated, be up there.
Yep.
Rashad Evans would almost certainly be what I would describe as a better athlete than Reyes. So, yeah. Again, like Mike just said, I don't want to rip on him, but it's a fucking dumb thing to say.
Whoa, okay, I didn't get that far.
Certainly, good thing you didn't rip on him. All right, listen, we had a chance to speak to John Jones earlier today. There was a media day before we had our guest fighter adventure. There was a full media day at the Host Hotel. We had a chance to talk to him. It was kind of an extended conversation, but I basically whittled it down to my questions and your questions, Oscar Willis. And there's a couple other voices in there just because they were like connecting thoughts. And I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. Originally, I was like, let's just put our 2 questions in. They're so badass as we are. But there were some connecting thoughts in there as well. But I don't know. I thought John was very candid today. I thought he was in a very good mood. And John is, I think, kind of a mercurial guy. And some days he's in a bad mood. Some days he's standoffish. And I felt he was in a good mood today.
One thing I will say before you play the audio, John Jones's fight IQ is often talked about. Never before this week have I seen him have so much fight IQ. Like, the guy just feels cerebral. When he's breaking down the fight with Reyes, every time he breaks down the fight, I'm like, well, that just sounds like that's the way that's going to go.
Yeah.
He seems to be mentally just a solid, not overconfident, just a solid, I've broken down everything, and this is how I think these things are going. Just guy seems on form.
I agree. It's tough. All right, here is a little bit of the conversation today with John Bones Jones.
How are you guys? How y'all feeling?
Well, you don't happen to have any more of the boom boxes to give away, do you?
Oh, man. I probably could get you one, John Morgan, for real.
Talk to me about what fight week is like for you, man, at this point in your career. I mean, you've been doing this for so long, top of the game for so long. I mean, are there nerves? Are there excitement? Is there what is the emotion of a fight week like for you?
I'm excited. Obviously, we all get nervous, and the guys who said they're not nervous at all, it's probably a dangerous spot to be in, right? This game requires a certain amount of nerve. But my excitement definitely outweighs any level of nervousness. I feel like I just saw you guys not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I like this rhythm. I like this pace that I'm on.
Nice. You talked about the reason you wanted this fight is because he seemed like the more dangerous guy. Now, a man in your position who's got records to break and things, I would think you take the easier fight. Take the guy you think is less dangerous,
right.
Because it's safer. You feel better about it.
Right.
Why is that not the attitude?
There's a little strategy behind it. I feel like a guy so young in Dominic Reyes, he's only going to get better. Right? He's so new in the game. So I want to take him now while he's still fairly inexperienced, and I think we all know that I do better in rematches. So when he does come back, hopefully I can dominate him even more, in even more dominating fashion than I am going to on Saturday.
Right.
And then the other half of it is just striking while he's hot. He's hot right now, and like I said at the press conference, I don't want to wait. And I don't want to wait too long. I want to give people the fights when both fighters are hot, and he's hot, and so that's what I'm giving the people.
You said yesterday, I kind of got the idea that you weren't interested in Corey Anderson, like it didn't excite you. But yesterday you said he's got a chip on his shoulder that you want to chew on a little bit.
I want to eat it.
So if he wins, I mean, is that a fight that does excite you?
Yeah, absolutely. Corey Anderson, he's extremely versatile, and just the way he went in there with full confidence against Johnny Walker, just chewed him up. It shows me that he has that fire that I'm looking for.
John, when Reyes has said a few things this time, I know it doesn't necessarily annoy you, but are you just confused in the things he says? Like he says, he hasn't fought an athlete like me, which, I mean, like you said yesterday, everyone in the UFC is probably a good athlete.
Yeah.
And then he says, I know how to study tape, and he's talking to the team that's most famous for studying tape in MMA. Are you confused at the choices of angles he's taking in this build-up?
Yeah, I think he's reaching. And my job is just to call him out on his silly comments. Like when a guy is hanging on to these wild ideas to Dave, you mind if I get like a small coffee? Thank you. Yeah, I woke up this morning. I didn't drink any water. Woke up pretty late. I'm glad I got a lot of sleep though. Yeah, I think he's reaching. He's trying to hang on to these ideas to like pump himself up, and my job is just to take his ideas away and send him into the fight with nothing, pretty much. And it's easy to do that because like when you say things like Weidman beat Anderson and I beat Weidman, this is gonna give me the magic that I need. What are you freaking talking about? Like silly shit like that, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, or you haven't fought an athlete, or you haven't fought a Latino, and like all this stuff, like it's about race. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? It's like, it's about skill setting here. I've fought guys from all over the world with different ethnicities and different cultures behind them, and it has made no difference. Why do you So he's just silly. He's reaching for anything he can find, and let him have it.
Have you noticed that when you called him out saying, why do you got to bring up party favors, that he sort of immediately stopped going that route and he didn't want to talk trash anymore?
Yeah.
So do you think this, like you said, he's just trying to find any sort of identity he can to get into this fight?
I think he knows that he's over his head, and he knows that he may be. I don't want to say that he doesn't belong here. I don't know. I think he doesn't think before he speaks. That's ultimately what it is. And then he finds himself backtracking. Like if you watch the Ariel Helwani interview when Ariel asks him what you mean about the athlete thing, and how he was like, you just, if you don't get it, I guess you just don't understand. It's just like, you can't even back up his silly thoughts, I just think he needs to slow down, think before he speaks. I mean, even with the bipolar thing, he called me bipolar. It's like, do you know how many people in the world are losing their homes, losing their marriages, losing their jobs? Like, bipolar is something that can come onto you in your later years in life. It's like, it's a very serious mental illness. And the fact that he just rattles friggin' things like that out of his mouth is just, he's an asshole, really.
You won your first world title in 2011, I think, and you made his pro debut in 2014. Even if you win on Saturday, we're now reaching the era where guys are fighting you who grew up watching you. It was always said about GSP, one of the reasons why he's the best of all time is he beat like 3 generations. You potentially, if you do this for 10 years, could beat 4 generations. Is that something you think about?
I haven't really thought about it, no. But my goal is just to be here for an extremely long time, a very long time. I want to be here for the whole next decade, and I want to be the champion for this next decade. And, I look at Daniel Cormier as an inspiration. For him to be the champion at 40 years old, dominating guys much younger than him, he lets me know that if I do the right things, thank you, sir. He lets me know if I do the right things and really take care of myself, there's no reason why we can't keep up with this next generation of fighters, or this next decade of fighters. So that's the goal, that's the motivation. Thank you for the motivation, Daniel Cormier.
You appeared on ESPN yesterday with Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. And seemed like an entertaining interview for yourself.
Yeah, I think they wanted it to be a little bit more hairy than I allowed it to be.
Do you think it's more hairy, or they're just trying to appeal to the general audience and perhaps most Conor could be even?
I think Max was definitely trying to lay it on me, for sure. I don't think any of the questions he asked were softballs. I think he was trying to be a little controversial with me, and I was really proud of myself for the way I handled the situation. I definitely felt like I took the high road.
There was a thing with Stephen A. Smith and Joe Rogan recently where Stephen A. Smith said stuff about Donald Cerrone and Joe Rogan said that he doesn't really understand MMA, so he shouldn't say his comments. Do you think people like Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith have a responsibility to better understand the sport when they cover it?
Absolutely. If you guys are going to, hats off to Stephen A. Smith, by the way. Always been, I think he's a tremendous reporter, but you're absolutely right. I think he does need to do more homework. You need to go back and maybe watch some of those Pride fights. You need to go back and start at UFC 1 and really do your homework. That way you know not only who we all are, but you know positioning, you know technique, you know a few submission names. I doubt they're at that level, and I would love to encourage them to get at that level. If you're a true professional, that's what you do.
So a lot of the narrative has been focused on Dominic's undefeated record, but not so much about you being the first guy that's undefeated that he's faced.
Right.
Do you think something's lost in that?
Yeah, something's lost in that, but I think it's the people reaching to build him up. He's undefeated. At the end of the day, if you look at who he's undefeated against, he's never been in a situation like this. Fighting someone who's not only undefeated as well, but somebody with just, double the experience as him. Everyone's talking about his athleticism, but I come from a family of all world champions. So I'm cool kind of taking the back road and letting people build him up. I don't feel like I really need it. I feel like my work speaks for itself.
And before the OSP fight, you told me, you look at fighting like a test.
Yeah.
So how would you categorize the level of difficulty of the test in preparing for a Dominic?
Dominic Reyes is a test. He's definitely a test. I felt like I needed to get physically stronger this camp, so I really worked on my physical strength a lot. He's just brought out something else in me. I've studied so extensively for this fight. For him to be so kind of inexperienced, there's something inside of me that lets me know, like, John, you cannot take this guy lightly. In a way, he could be more dangerous than the guys that are more experienced just because he doesn't know any better. You know what I mean? Like, when you listen to him talk, he's so emotional, he's so all over the place. He just wants to fight. He doesn't really care if he wins, he doesn't care if he loses. He just wants to give it all he got. So, like, when you're fighting someone like that, you got to take a step back and, like, you're dealing with a wild dog here. You know what I mean? You can't just reach in there and get bit. You got to come at him with a really strategic approach, and that's exactly what I'm prepared for. He's gotten me and my team's complete undivided attention, and we're taking him very, very seriously.
Sean, do you think you would have given him that respect if he hadn't kind of riled you up a little bit, if he hadn't thrown the verbal jabs your way? Do you think you would have still given him that amount of respect, or does that make you give a guy more respect when it's like a rivalry almost?
I feel like I know a lot of guys like him, and living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I feel like I know a lot of guys like him. And one thing you know when you live in Albuquerque is he's gonna bring it. He's gonna bring it. There's guys, I see guys out at the club who don't know a lick of martial arts, and the culture is like, yo, I'll fight you, bro. I don't care. I'll give it all I got. If you knock me out, so what? So I know, okay, there's a similar vibe, but he's actually backed up by some martial arts techniques. So I know that I got to bring it, and that's exactly what he's going to get.
John, it seems every time you say, right, I'm not talking about Israel Adesanya anymore, he does an interview and mentions your name again. Where are we with that? And he's going to be here this week. You might even cross paths. Is that something you'd even like to have, just to be like, are we going to do this? Are we not going to do this?
No, honestly, I have no interest in Israel at the end of the day. Anderson Silva was a guy that everyone wanted to see me fight, and I never wanted to do it because I had so much respect with Anderson. And I feel the same way with Izzy, but it's not coming from a place of respect. It's like my career isn't based around fighting him. Him to fight me, it would be huge for his resume. But me, I feel like I already have so many legends under my resume, and he's not even a legend. You know what I mean? We've all seen that video of him fighting some Alex guy and catching a clean over here, right? So he's very human to me. Like he's not this special guy that, I don't see what everybody else is seeing in him. I think his whole anime stuff and how he's all antic with his hands and all this crazy stuff. I think that's kind of entertaining a certain fan base. But for me, it's like, dude, I would slap you. Get out of here, kid.
Do you think you've ever got the credit for becoming a world champion so young? Because I think the older we get, the more we realize how young 23 actually is.
Yeah. Honestly, to be dead honest, I feel like it's going to be harder to break that record because of where martial arts is going. When I joined in the sport, I wanted to get Shogun, who's definitely an honorable guy to get it from. I mean, he was very versed. He had great jiu-jitsu, great striking, but his wrestling, there was a huge hole in his wrestling. And I just so happened to be a wrestler, and I filled in that hole, took him down, and ultimately pretty much finished the fight on the ground, right? I think in the future, you're not going to be finding champions with holes like that. I think the future champions are going to have elite jiu-jitsu, elite wrestling, and elite kickboxing. So in order for a 23-year-old to come up and become a world champion, he's gonna have to be trained in everything, and he's gonna have to have no holes in his game, or else I don't see anybody else beating it.
In terms of all the out of the cage stuff that you've gone through over and over again, I think everyone wants to pin it on you and stuff like that. At 23, 24, 25, you're 26, you're still a young man, you're still learning, you're still growing up.
Yeah.
Do you think you ever got a fair shake about that?
I can't play a poor me role. I've done a lot of wild stuff. You know what I mean? I can't play poor me. But at the same time, sometimes I think about it this way. My little brother and my older brother are in the NFL, and from the time they left college, they had programs to really show them how to be a professional athlete. The NFL, their team provided them with a driver that they can call 24 hours. In the NFL, there's a chaplain that they can call at 24 hours. There's group meetings. There's fellow guys to be around to encourage you. I was just kind of thrown into like, okay, here you're fairly famous now, and here's some money too. It's like when you come from nothing, and at that age, it can be a lot to handle. It can be a lot to juggle. I don't think I had enough mentors in my life at that point. And I'm glad I finally figured it all out.
It just reminds me of like child stars, like when like a kid actor or Justin Bieber gets famous and they go off the rails, everyone goes, well, they're just a kid making people all this money. At 23, you are a kid in this game.
Yeah.
I wonder if you ever felt like that they never gave you that sort of asterisk, like, well, he is a young man.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people look back on some of the things I've done and say, he's young, and I'm still fairly young. I mean, at 30, I feel like there's a lot more lessons I can learn. But at the end of the day, with great responsibility, with great talent comes great responsibility, and it was my job to figure it out a little faster. And they say guys mature a little slower than women, right? So I'm at 30. I'm finally starting to feel like, okay, John, I'm getting it. I'm starting to get how not to fuck up. Excuse me. And let's see how it goes.
All right, so a very relaxed, a very composed Jon Jones, but also, I think as Oscar said, a very sharp Jon Jones. Knowing what's on the table in terms of Dominic Reyes, knowing what's on the table in terms of his career. I don't know. It's been a fun Jon Jones. It's been so relaxed of a Jon Jones that did mess with him a little bit at the press conference or the athlete panel. And basically kind of joked about him being an immature because he was saying that Dominic Reyes was immature. I'm like, how funny is it that you're calling somebody immature? As soon as I said it, I was like, oh, I hope he gets the joke. And he took it in pretty good spirits. He had some fun with it. So, but to your point, Oscar, man, the guy does seem dialed in. Dominic is going to have to be on point, man. This is a Jon Jones that is not going to be snuck up on. That is clearly aware of what's coming on the other side of the cage and what's at stake. And yeah, man.
It's going to take the performance of his life.
It's going to take the performance of his life.
It also feels like, I'm not to go onto this subject too much longer, but I definitely feel like it's almost like the party favors comment is what sparks the irritation and sparked the motivation. But then it's like every single other thing Reyes says is also like, even unintentionally, like, I'm an athlete. And Jon Jones is like, I'm a fucking athlete too. Or then like Reyes is like, I study tape. And John's like, we are this, it's like everything he says, John's like, no, I'm going to prove that to me.
He denied it, but I think he looks for it. I think he wants a reason.
Mike nailed it earlier. He finds anything.
At this point, man, I mean, the dude has faced everybody, done everything. I think he looks for a reason to be like, Anthony Smith, man, this jackass, you know what I mean? Like, he's like the nicest guy ever, you know? I think he's like, even the one that it did stand out to me that I thought was a little much was he said he's making it about race. I don't think he was ever
I was actually going to, did anyone ask about that? I was going to ask that on the panel, but I was like, oh, God.
He just brought it up about saying that, like, he's never faced a Latino or...
Do you know what's funny, though? Just before
he did say that. I don't recall him saying that.
Before we started this pod, my friend, like, who's a big MMA fan, goes, I find it interesting. John's never faced a Mexican before. And I was just like, really? You bought into that, like, already? And he went, well, they're different breeds. I was like, how many Mexican world champs have there been in the UFC yet? Okay. There you go. But I just think, back to John's point, like John Morgan's point, that was...
That was the only one I thought that was a little bit of a reach.
Unnecessary.
It was unnecessary. And I'm not faulting him. I just think, again, I think he's trying to identify whatever he can to, like, this is the reason this guy's my target. But I didn't think that
I don't think Reyes has actually said, I think Reyes maybe mentioned one quote like, I'm very proud to be Latino and I'm representing them in this fight. I think that was about it.
Yeah. Reyes has said a lot of shit. I can't follow it all at this point. Like, I don't really know everything he said in the lead up to this fight. But I guarantee you, I trust John Jones' word for it. I mean, like, I'm sure he's watched every damn interview this guy's done. I think so. I don't think he would make up that specific thing. I mean, maybe, like you said, it was probably something super light. And he took, like, again, he makes what's the term? A mountain hill or a mole out of a mountain hill or whatever you call it.
Mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah, so that's John Jones' style. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Man, the beer they serve at Hooters is strong. I didn't tell you about that. Here in Texas, we serve that strong
I'm from
beer.
Canada, sir, where the beer is stronger than you guys, United States softies.
You should practice on it a little bit more, okay? I'm just saying. All right, let's talk about our co-main event. Obviously, Katlyn Chookagian is a massive underdog here, understandably so. Valentina Shevchenko, to me, I've said it before, I think she's basically 1A and 1B. I don't know what just happened behind me, but there was something that happened with one of our Lone Star's finest.
With Kaylee with a Kayleigh. I mean, come on.
That's a very traditional
Is it?
spelling
I
for
don't think
Kaylee.
I've met a Kaylee who's spelled it like that. Anyways.
That's how they spell it down here in Texas.
Yeah.
All right, well, I've never been here before. So.
That's what they called her at church on Sunday, and that's what she's called here at Hooters.
All right, Katlyn Chookagian, a very massive underdog.
Katlyn Chookagian?
Oh, Jesus.
Not Kaylee Chookagian. Katlyn Chookagian, a very massive underdog, understandably so. And again, I've said it, I think Valentina Shevchenko, it's almost a disservice to call her the second best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet because the reason she's second best is because she's lost to Amanda Nunes, but Amanda Nunes is so much naturally bigger than she is. You know what I mean? So it's,
and the second one was close, too.
It's accurate. It's just almost a damn disservice. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like they're so close on the same level. She's just so technically good at what she does. And it's funny because, you know, I think in some ways there's heavy expectations on Shevchenko. They're tough. I mean, the Jessica Ai knockout, that was a stunning knockout. But most of Shevchenko's fights go the distance. You know what I mean? But she's very, she keeps a strong pace on the feet, but she's very technical in what she does. I think her ground game is incredibly underrated.
Yeah.
I do think that, you know, if I was trying to devise a game plan to beat her, I think I'd want to take her to the ground versus trying to stand up and beat her, unless I'm 20 pounds heavier than her and have knockout power. But if I'm the same size as her, I think I want the fight to take place on the ground. But I do believe that her ground game is
She's also
underrated.
incredibly deceptively strong. I mean, like she manhandled Joanna. I mean, obviously Joanna's smaller than her, but she's very strong. Juliana Pena, she tapped her out on the ground and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah,
so.
from Bob. And again, she's not a person you probably want to be on top or on bottom of, but Katlyn Chookagian, to her credit, brown belt in jiu-jitsu under Renzo Gracie. So, yeah, that's probably her best path to victory.
Does she ever fight like that? She's much more like almost a Holly Holm striker of a ush and stick and move sort of fighter, no?
For sure. I mean, I think that's more just of a stylistic matchup type of thing in terms of like what has worked for her in terms of, you know, winning the fights she's had so far. But yeah, it's she hasn't really had to dig into that bag of tricks, but I don't really know what her approach is. This is a really tough
That's
fight
what I
want
to say is that to me it's tough. I think Chookagian has the right mind. I mean, she has wanted this fight. Like, she has called for the fight. She said, like, I am ready for this. She does have the right mindset, man. And being around her, you know, had an elevator ride with her earlier. You know, you just get those feelings, those moments where you get to look at somebody in a human fashion and find out, like, are they blown away by this moment or do they feel comfortable in this moment? She feels comfortable. But it's just an incredibly tough assignment.
Yeah, and she, like, again, she's the nicest person in the world. She's done well for herself in the UFC, and this is not just trying to be disrespectful at all, but I just haven't seen anything from her in the UFC that makes me think she's going to win this fight. She's going to have to do something completely out of the box of what she's shown so far. And we have seen that before in title fight performances, things like this. We've seen fights where you think a fighter is one thing, they go in and they put on a performance that just
TJ Barrow
changes your perception, things like that. But again, and this is a reality of women's MMA too, where the decision percentages go up significantly, the finish percentages go down significantly. In men's MMA, it's a lot easier to kind of change the course and do something dramatic like that, where you can crack someone with one punch, knock them out. We don't see that nearly as much in women's MMA.
Right.
Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm was something like that, like an outlier that we saw something crazy like that unfold. But just the thing being like, the power is what's going to make the difference. Like we're talking about Dominic Reyes and John Jones, like that conversation barely ever comes up with women's MMA. So it makes the task of unseating someone like Valentina Shevchenko significantly
and that's no disrespect.
More difficult.
It's just looking at the statistics and being honest.
It's just the reality.
It's funny you said that. Like comparing a lot of this build-up is comparing the two title fights because it's just one dominant champion versus a contender who's the severe underdog. But it's funny. Both of you sort of touched on this, but if I was going to say mentally, I'd say Chikagian's in a much stronger place than Reyes, and seems mentally prepared to dethrone a champion. Excuse me. But then if you talk athletically, I'd say Reyes is much more likely to dethrone a champion because he has the.
I don't think they had a women's football team at Katlyn Chikagian.
She didn't play baseball. Didn't fucking play baseball.
That's an interesting point. It's funny, but that's an interesting point. She does seem she's in the right headspace.
Yeah,
she does seem like she's dialed in.
Yep.
But God, I mean, Shevchenko is just so. I mean, and even mentally, and man, I loved what Shevchenko had to say at the athlete panel, where it was like, "Hey, listen, what's next for you? If you continue to win, or do you want to stay at 25? Do you want to go to 15, 35, the trilogy?" And she was like, "Man, the great thing about being champ is people come to me."
Yeah.
And I love what she said. She was like, whether it's Nunes, whether it's Zhang, whether it's Henry Cejudo, throwing that out there, which is funny, but it's just like
there's always a next fight, a next option when you're the champion. They need to keep the ball rolling. They need to book title defenses. So
maybe the thing about Shevchenko, the reason why, because it's true, like a lot of women want to fight Shevchenko. Macy Barber's like fresh in the game. She wants to fight,
God, imagine if that had happened.
But she could have had a great chance, Mike. She could have had a great chance. But
Texas beer, just getting to Mike Bohn, huh?
Yeah, I think I'm wearing off on you. But I forgot my point.
It's just a tough assignment. I mean, listen.
Oh yeah. No, my point is like I think people look at Shevchenko and go, she ain't that tough. She goes to decision every time. She doesn't. Jessica Rai aside, she's not murking bitches or anything like that, or women as they're called. But but she's not. She's not. I think I can beat her. But as we both said earlier, I don't know where you begin. Do you go for the ground? Do you go for the striking? Like I don't know where you even begin. Whereas with Jones, as you said, you're like, well, if you hit him hard enough, he might go down.
Yeah,
but
hopefully.
In theory.
I agree. It's just tough to devise a game plan where you think you can beat her. So, man, it's going to be tough. I've said it all along. I've said it from the beginning. If I had to pick one, I would say Reyes. If I had to pick one upset in the title fights, I would say Reyes.
Well, I think,
and again, it's not who I picked. Let me just be very clear.
I think we could all sit here and say right here, yeah, that's what we did. But again, I think it's kind of beating the theory. Something about Shevchenko fighting to decisions a lot, John Jones being in that sense sometimes a little passive. It would not shock me, or blow me away that in one of these fights, either they're a little too passive, a little too non-aggressive. Next thing you know, Katlyn Chikagian and Dominic Reyes wins 3 rounds, and then the fight's just over, and they lose the title. I don't think it's going to be a definitive finish or something like that. Crazy things can happen, but I think that's the biggest risk for Jones and Shevchenko, that they just sit there and think that they're in control of the fight, and they're not realizing that the rounds are passing, the minutes are passing, and next thing you know, they lost 3 of 5.
Yeah, I definitely think. I don't know about John and Dominic, because I think if you're going to get into a rhythmic pace, that's John's world. But I definitely could see, essentially, with no disrespect, a whole lot of nothing happening for 15 minutes, and the judges going, well, that whole lot of nothing for 3 minutes, 3 rounds went to Katlyn instead of Valentina, and then suddenly she's got a dominate.
Fighting from behind.
She's got a So that can very easily can imagine that happening. Like it's almost like the Liz Carmouche Shevchenko fight. If Liz had perhaps performed a little bit more and Shevchenko hadn't, I could easily see, like Mike said, just 3 rounds going by and being like, is she losing this fight?
Silly question, but I want to ask you anyway. It just came to mind. I don't often pay a lot of attention to the UFC's advertising and stuff, but I did notice this. And they might have been doing this for a while, and I just didn't pay attention. But they had Dominic Reyes undefeated, John Jones undefeated.
They changed it. after people react.
Did they really?
I think now they said undefeated in UFC title fights.
Interesting.
For
Okay.
John.
I did see the commercial and I was like, undefeated. I'm like, but he's not. Like, I mean, I guess you get to advertise however you want.
Weren't they trying to overturn the Hamill?
Oh yeah, they mentioned it, but they never went forward with that. There's no way they could get that overturned.
Mate,
I'm sure Bob Bennett was like, bro, like seriously, we can't overturn that.
Dana's calling up Matt Hamill and being like, hey dude, I'll give you $500,000 if you say you cheated and take steroids.
I don't think Matt Hamill would be able to hear what was said on the
Oh, Jesus, wow.
I think I might need to leave after that.
Mike is definitely cut off from the Texas beer. All right, let me ask you guys this. The rest of the main card, Juan Adams versus Justin Taffa, Mirsad Bektic versus Dan Ige.
It was FaceTime. It was a FaceTime call.
Ilir Latifi versus Derek
Texted
Lewis.
him, come on.
So ridiculous. She's losing all control. All right, talk to me about this main card. You guys pick one fight that you're most interested in. I mean, Juan Adams, of course, he's looking for redemption. Man, mentioned going through some mental training and that sort of stuff. That he was really shook after the last one. And I agree. He was way too heavily invested in that last fight against Justin Taffa, who admitted he made some mistakes in his last fight too. Interesting, by the way, this fight is so elevated on the main card. I think they just think it's going to be a banger. Mirsad Bektic. Always been a fan of Mirsad Bektic, man. That guy really has skills, but he's had some hiccups along the way, and he wants to do something. But against Dan Ige, who feels like he's ready to shine and kind of break out of the shell, he's put this nice little winning streak together. And then, of course, an interesting fight, Ilir Latifi versus Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis fighting at home in Houston. That's awesome. Against Ilir Latifi, who, by the way, we've crossed paths with Ilir Latifi a couple times. All of us have this week.
Had to leap out of his way.
He is coming in as a heavyweight. Like he is. Whether that'll be good or bad, I mean, there's still a massive size difference between the two. When they stood toe to toe today, it was like, holy shit, that's a big difference. But I mean, Ilir Latifi, it's not like he's going to roll in at like 215 or something. So, Mike, start with you. Like, which one of those are you most excited about, or what storyline stands out about? What is it?
Yeah, it's got to be the Latifi-Lewis fight. I did hear Latifi actually say, I think he was speaking to Ariel Helwani, where I was just waiting for another interview. He said his plans to come in, or he's going to be 250 range, which is pretty crazy. So he's only going to be
I was thinking maybe like 240.
No, so he's only going to be like 10, 15 pounds lighter than Derek Lewis, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
It's obviously a different kind of weight distribution in terms of their height and everything. But
it's all in his ass. The man is broad.
Yeah, so I think just that one, just because Derek Lewis always fun one to watch. Interesting, since I'm the fat guy fact about Ilir Latifi. There's been guys that have moved up from light heavyweight to heavyweight before. Daniel Cormier kind of started the bounce back, Randy Couture, something like that. But he's the one that's had the most fights at light heavyweight before moving up. He had 12 fights, and then he moved up to heavyweight. No one stayed at light heavyweight for that long before going up, so it's kind of like unprecedented in that sense, just a long-time mainstay of the division. So I'm curious to see how he does there, and I honestly am surprised more guys haven't done that. Like, I thought when Alexander Gustafsson kind of hit the end of his road, like, why not try heavyweight? Like, you have the frame for it. Like, there's some guys that I thought it just kind of made sense for in the past. So I'm glad we're seeing someone. Obviously, it's not like, a top 3 ranked light heavyweight, someone super on that level, but I am curious to see the experiment, and he's going in there right into the fire fighting a guy who is, I think Derek Lewis is still top 3 ranked at heavyweight, something like that, top 5 at worst. Yeah. So, and again, he's always fun to watch. He fights as much as anyone in the UFC. I think this is the most fights of anyone on the roster behind Donald Cerrone since 2014. The guy fights at an absolutely absurd rate. More often than not, you could count on less than one hand the amount of stinkers Derek Lewis has had in the UFC. Obviously, Francis Ngannou standing out as the biggest one, but he's always entertaining. He's going to try to put on for his city here in Houston. So, yeah, I think that's basically your perfect pay-per-view main card opener right there.
Yeah. I wonder how much of the light heavyweights not moving up. Like, you always hear John Jones being like, how much does Stipe weigh? I wonder if they just hear the number 240, 250, and they go, oh, well, I'm never always that. It must just be that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, usually you can sort of rustle up another fight to be interested in, but realistically, this card is not the most stacked card in UFC history. And while I do enjoy Taffa and Juan Adams and stuff, it's going to be Derek Lewis for me as well. This guy's funny. It's his birthday today. Mike celebrated that very well, even if Derek didn't want to join in. But
birthday beast.
His birthday beast, indeed. But I think it's interesting you said, he's planning on coming in at 250. I wonder if he planned on coming in at 250 or he got to this stage and went, I'm going to be 250.
When did you make the plan?
Yeah.
On Tuesday.
I think I had heard him say, actually, that he didn't weigh himself at all throughout camp.
Yeah, you can fucking tell me. I mean, like,
trained and allegedly, I presume, ate. And then he just kind of showed up, I think, to the fight, and I was like, hey, let's see how I am.
We're being a bit facetious because the Texan drinks are flowing, but and there's not too much you can looking at a stare down and stuff like that. But I have to say, when Latifi, I thought Latifi's going to be dwarfed compared to Derek Lewis. He's a much smaller guy. And then he got there and went, he might be shorter.
Height-wise, height-wise.
He certainly put on the girth that Lewis might be expecting. And indeed, Derek Lewis did say, when they're both lying down, it's the same anyway. And he expected two men grappling for a better position. So
it said he expects to win a controversial split decision.
Yes, in his hometown.
Fantastic prediction. Yeah, it's tough not to be intrigued by that one. All right, listen, as one more little quick preview to this fight, I did have a few minutes to pull aside UFC President Dana White and just talk to him mainly about this card, but a couple of other news and nuggets otherwise. So here's my conversation the other day with Dana White.
Well, Dana, the first 5 weeks of 2020, you get a Conor McGregor fight, you get a Jon Jones fight, right? I mean, that's got to be a pretty awesome start for the company for the year.
Yeah, not bad. So, usually the beginning of the year is rough on us, but because of ESPN scheduling, it's completely changed our ecosystem. So, yeah, the beginning of the year is going to be strong from here on out.
No doubt about it. Give me an idea of Jon Jones. I mean, we talk about him as the GOAT, right? I mean, a lot of people believe he's the greatest of all time. Right. Is he a superstar? Is he the big money draw? I mean, obviously Conor's the biggest. Mm-hmm. But is Jon up there, or is this just still a way to go?
Of course he is. We just broke the record at the Toyota Center with this fight. So, Jones is a star. What happens is with these different fighters, when you have different guys, they bring out different groups of people. You know what I mean? A completely different group of people show up to watch Jon Jones fight on TV and live. Same thing for Conor, same thing for Nate Diaz, and the list goes on and on. It's always a different group of people.
You said a record-breaking gate. What can you share the numbers? What are we looking at?
We did 3.2 million, still a couple hundred tickets to move, and we're opening up some production kills right now. So it'll be well over 3.2 million, and we'll have the record.
Very cool. Give me a sense of what you think of Dominic Reyes. I mean, you've seen a lot of contenders try against Jon Jones, but man, he had a little bit of a swagger at the on-sale press conference. He's rolling around with some confidence this week. I mean, what do you think about him as a contender?
Yeah, no, this guy's the real deal. The biggest problem with this fight is that enough people don't know how real this guy is. He's young, he's fast, he hits hard, and he's undefeated. And he's got, like you said, a ton of confidence going into this fight and believes he's going to beat Jon Jones. This is a tough fight for Jon. If Jon gets through this fight, I mean, if you look at the way this guy has treated himself outside of the octagon, usually those stories all end the same. When you do the things that Jon has done, you don't last. There's no longevity in that. But this guy's so talented and such a freak of nature that he continues to dominate.
Yeah. Do you feel like maybe he has turned a corner, though? This does seem like a week. In some ways, like how Conor was different last week, Jon seems like, more mature this year, more reserved, more, the way he's doing that. Do you think he's turned a corner, maybe?
Listen, there's truth to it. You've seen it in every sport. Too rich, too famous, too young. And when that happens to you, there are consequences to it. There's a good side and a bad side. Some people can deal with it, and some people can't. And but then you eventually get to a point where you hopefully get yourself under control, and you start to take it, champ. You start to take it serious and get basically get your shit together. And usually by the time you do that, it's too late. Your window has closed and it's over. But that's not the case for Jon Jones.
No doubt. Corey Anderson is in action in a couple of weeks. He feels like he should be next in line if he wins over Jan in New Mexico. Are you feeling that way too? Are you looking at that as the number one contender fight, at least as far as Corey Anderson is concerned?
I don't know off the top of my head, who I think is next in the division. We'll see how. First of all, just to say, this guy, if he wins, is next. Let's see how the fight plays out. Let's see how he looks. See how it goes.
Yeah.
But I am well aware that he has been pissed off for a very long time about not having a title shot.
No doubt. The co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko. I want to ask you what you think she means to the women's side of the sport right now. I mean, she lost to Amanda Nunes, so maybe tough to call her the GOAT, but I feel like in a lot of ways it's like 1A and 1B because she's beating everybody else except for somebody that's 20 pounds bigger than her. What do you think Valentina means to the sport right now?
It's true. I mean, if you ask anybody right now, about the women's division, they'll tell you Amanda Nunes, Valentina, and Weili Zhang. I mean, realistically, the three champions in each division are as badass as can be. So it's fun.
Yeah, she's tearing through contenders right now. If she stays victorious again, I mean, do you see her future at 125? Does the trilogy with Nunes make sense to you at any point? Does Whaley make sense? I mean, there's talk about maybe she moves up. What does make sense for you?
All of them. You're right. All of those can happen. But what I really like to see people do is stay in their weight class, continue to knock people off, continue to build your legacy and your name. And then when the time is right, those big crossover fights will happen.
Yeah. Israel Adesanya is going to be in town. Obviously, there's a lot of talk between Adesanya and John Jones. Potentially maybe early, I don't know. But is that a fight that interests you? I mean, I know you just said people stay in their lane and their divisions, build their name. But, I mean, those two guys facing off, do you have interest there?
You got to look at, Israel right now just won the title. He's fighting Yoel Romero because he wants to, which I respect. Then he's got Costa after that. And then we'll see who's in line after. He's got some fights to win before we start looking at John Jones. John Jones is a very nasty, fighter and much, much bigger than Israel Adesanya. So I think Israel's got a few more guys to knock down before he even thinks about John Jones.
Yeah, no question. Last couple ones. I hadn't heard your opinion yet on the Stephen A. Smith take on Cowboy Cerrone and all the Joe Rogan back and forth that went. Did that bother you at all? I mean, your broadcast partner, I know you love ESPN, yeah. but calling one of the beloved guys, a future UFC Hall of Famer, say maybe he quit on that night. What were your take on those comments?
Yeah, I didn't hear him. I didn't hear what he said. I know that there was some stuff going back and forth, which is going to happen. One of the things when we bought and built the UFC, that we always did, being fight fans ourselves. I'm a huge fight fan. Lorenzo was a huge fight fan. Joe Rogan is a huge fight fan. And one of the things that we hated was on HBO boxing and some other boxing that they would do, listen, you're tuning in and buying the pay-per-view because you love these guys and you respect these fighters and you're a fan of the sport. The last thing you want to do is hear somebody ripping them apart. It's not, I'm not into it. Rogan's not into it, and you don't see that in the UFC. There'll be times when I'm pissed off at a guy and I'll voice my opinion on what he did or whatever, or if a fight is really bad or somebody did something. But what we don't do is when a fight is over and a guy loses, we don't go in and rip them apart. Just not our style. It's not, we're fans. We don't do it. So I think Rogan was reacting to that because, that's our philosophy here. And, for Stephen A. Smith, that's his thing. That's what he does. It's going to happen. You're always going to have people who have difference in opinions, and especially when you have two very opinionated guys like Stephen A. Smith and Joe Rogan.
Yeah, no question. Last thing for me, how close are we to knowing Conor McGregor's next move? Usman and Masvidal were talked about, but that's obviously off the table, both those guys at this point. I mean, you've been saying the fight to make for Conor is the Khabib rematch if he gets through Ferguson. Are you sticking to that right now?
There was never any talk about Usman or Masvidal. That was Conor. That's madness. That's crazy. So Conor's thing right now is Conor thinks Tony and Khabib isn't going to happen, and he wants to slide into that spot. So we'll see how this plays out.
Does he have a deadline? Like I could do it a week out, or it has to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
He is ready, willing, and able to slide into that spot if it becomes available.
All right, UFC president anyway. By the way, man, that's an impressive gate. $3.2 million, man, if you were worried. Because, I'd heard some things that there were concerns about tickets or whatever. Not necessarily really from any credible sources, but I get it, man. Like, 2 title fights here, but as we said, 2 title fights that aren't necessarily, dude, we've been privy to some fantastic fights. Obviously already opening this year with Conor was amazing. And then, some great fights to wrap up last year. But, again, I was when they first announced this card, even I was a little interested. Like, hey, 2 title fights, but are they the ones that are going to get people out of their seats and get them to drive into the arena and buy some tickets? So apparently so they're doing it. All right, real quick, guys, the prelims, a lot going on there. I won't necessarily round out the entire card, but any gems, whether it be just a story from somebody that you talked to leading into, or just a fight that has you kind of paying attention. I always like to give the hardcore fans maybe something that you're looking out for, even if it's all the way down on the prelims or the ESPN Plus, or if it's on ESPN, of course, as they scramble madly to pull up the card.
What are you talking about? I didn't do that.
We're professionals, dude.
Oh,
I'm
man,
just texting Matt Hamill.
You guys thought you were getting away that easy.
No, I already had someone because I was on Twitter. I saw her face. I tell you what I'm looking for. Andrea Lee. She has, she's off the loss to JoJo Calderwood in Abu Dhabi, but I still think she has a bit of the star power about her. She's got a unique look with a cowboy hat and the sort of the country shtick. I believe she's actually walking out to a song this time that was specifically written for her.
Okay.
More than that, I can't tell you. That was just told me to me by Martin
pay
Raimondo.
attention to that,
But
yeah.
I
I like
believe
that.
it was written specifically for her. It is a country song. You'll be surprised to know.
All right.
But Andrea Lee, I feel like we've been a bit sort of facetious and silly on this podcast tonight, but being serious, like the UFC, it's no secret they get behind quote unquote marketable women. If a female fighter is like pretty or attractive, they get more opportunities. It sucks. That's the way it is. Luke Rockhold has a career. It's fine. It's evil, but it's equal. But I feel like if Andrea just gets a couple of wins in a row, she could still get to become a big name in this sport.
Right.
And I do think she's a quality fighter. She's a quality fighter. I think that JoJo thing, listen, it's first time in Abu Dhabi. It's the humidity. Like JoJo said, she was nearly dying out there. It's so hot and stuff like that. Like I think that fight's almost. So you almost got to give it a wash. They didn't know what they're doing. They're opening the card.
I know. That was a unique environment.
And they were completely.
You can't get somebody a free pass, but that was just so unique.
I'm not saying the fight's gone and because they absolutely fought, but I'm just saying
there's a little asterisk next to it.
You just never know, do you? You know what I mean? And maybe next time they wouldn't fight that way and so on and so forth. But so there are certain names that even if they're not on the best streak or whatever, that when you see them on the card, you go, oh, they're on the card. And Andrea Lee's one of those for me.
Yeah. Mike, how about you?
Can I say there's nothing really? I mean,
if I knew that was an option, I wouldn't have given all that bollocks about.
No, I think. Well, obviously you took it. That's by far, and that's probably top 3, 4 most significant fights on the card. It's either 3 with Derek Lewis and Latifi in terms of relevance.
Yeah, that could easily slide into the main card.
For sure.
Easily.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, to be honest with you, again, no
Also,
disrespect to
Laura
Juan
Murphy is
Adams and
jacked.
Justin.
I think the only reason Juan Adams is on there is because he's a local, right?
That's
Or
right.
somewhat
But
local,
so no disrespect to Juan Adams and Justin Taffa, but if you had Lee Murphy in place of that, I think it'd fit real nicely on that main card.
For sure. And it could arguably, I think Joanne Calderwood's probably the number 1 contender in that division, but for any reason she's unavailable due to injury or whatever the case may be, this is probably a number 1 contender fight right behind that. So yeah,
that's crazy. That's a good point.
It's definitely really a significant fight for the weight class. We'll see how it pans out. Hopefully it ends up being an entertaining one, but outside of that, man, it's really slim pickings on there. I could sit here and lie to you and be like, oh, I'm excited for Miles Jones and Alex Morono, who are good fighters and can be exciting, but the fights just don't mean a whole lot at the moment. So we'll watch it. We'll sit there. Hopefully it provides some exciting action. But I think this is one of those ones that's going to be the prelims are kind of just whatever, then it's the main card.
No, Mr. Cynicism.
By the way, I can't delete this stuff afterwards. I'm just letting you know. No, I'm just kidding with you. I'm messing with you. I will say this. I will,
a better card.
I will say this. Alex Morono, I do love watching that kid fight. You missed his name. He's just he's this kind of awkward kid to me that goes out there and likes to bang, dude. So I enjoy him. I will say this. Mario Batista and Miles Jones, I rode on an elevator with them both together at one time.
No way.
And apparently it's happened 4 times to them this week. They keep ending up on the same elevator. And it's so awkward because like other people in the elevator that don't know because you have non-fighters and they're these 2 dudes are about to scrap on Saturday night. So I thought that was funny. And I will say, by the way, Jonathan Martinez is also a name that I'm kind of excited to see just because I love it when Jonathan Martinez wins because that means he has to go speak to the media. It's just his trepidation of standing in front of a camera. It makes me laugh.
We're the scary ones.
He is the male, what's her face?
Aspen Ladd.
No, the other girl who just fought.
Hannah Cyphers.
Yeah, Hannah Cyphers.
Yeah, you're right. Aspen speaks shortly, but she's not afraid. She's very confident. You're right.
She
Hannah
just doesn't have
Cyphers
much
much better. Hannah is afraid to speak to the. Yeah. That's a much better representation.
What's her name, Mike?
Texas beer.
It's been a long few days.
He's talking about the Molson's Canadian. Yeah, it has been long few days. By the way, shout out to the fine folks at Bucks Wild who took care of us on our first night here.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right, hey, listen. To close out real quick, Cold Coffee. He actually wanted me to say he did ask. He said, "Listen, if you don't mind, I don't want to record anything." He said, "I'm still in a lot of pain, and it's hard for me to set all my gear up and all that." He's like, "So I don't want to say anything." But I'll jump back in the mix ASAP. But he did want to pass on that he's doing good. Surgery was a success. They got the tumor out 100%. which is great news. And he's just sore as hell. He's got a long recovery ahead in terms of that. Luckily, not a lot of necessarily rehab and things like that, but just has to get better and heal up. And but sounds like he's doing good. And it was cool to see, man. He tweeted something out the other day, got a lot of love on social media, which was awesome to see because he's not necessarily a face in front of the camera or whatever. But I thought it was cool to see him get some love. But yeah, Cold Coffee's sore as hell, but doing better.
Sore as hell and sorely missed, Kenny. There you go,
No
son.
doubt. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Well done. Well done. All right, listen. We got some more of this Texas beer to drink. We're not sure if we're going to have Mike Bohn have any more of it. He might be cut off at this point. The rest of us are definitely going to enjoy it. And we'll have you covered all weekend. Meantime, thanks for listening.